Hello, if we're ready to start. Good afternoon, members, and welcome to the meeting of the Kirkcudbright Common Good Subcommittee. This meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded, and it will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, and this includes muting your microphones and switching off your video feed when you are not addressing the meeting. Please write "speak" into the Teams chat function if you do wish to contribute to the meeting. And please do not repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or please write "leave" in the chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting. And that way we can keep track on whether the meeting is correct. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. So now I'll ask Ingrid to provide the sederunt apologies and Chair's approval of members for remote participation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. I confirm that we have apologies from Councillor Campbell this afternoon. Present in the room we have Councillor Dennerley, and via Teams we have Councillor McFarlane and Councillor Howie, who is the substitute for Councillor Campbell, and we also have our community representative Lindsay Forbes, who's present in the room. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Ingrid. So we'll move on to item 2, declarations of interest. So do any members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? So statement of connection for transparency reasons. Members may wish to make public a statement, and declaration of interest, members now required to leave the meeting for that item. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 3, minutes of the previous meeting of Wednesday, the 26th of October for approval. Are members happy to approve? At the request of one of my fellow members, I, as chair, have agreed to take item number 5 of the agenda first. So we'll be focusing on number 5 at the moment. So item number 5 is as follows. Following the deferral of this item at our meeting on the 26th of October 2023 to seek clarification of the views of the Kirkcudbright Community Council Community Council. Members are asked to consider the application from Kirkcudbright Community Tennis Club under the Community Empowerment Act Scotland 2015 for transfer by the way of ownership of Kirkcudbright Tennis Club and land, and that's the 2 courts and the clubhouse as well. So members of this committee are asked to make a recommendation to the Council's Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee to, in turn, inform their decision. This report contains really a great deal of information to help inform members' decision. And this includes Stage 2 application, the CDDF business plan, the officer assessment, and the social value evaluation. There are 5 recommendations outlined in this report, and before we move to the recommendation to agree an option, I'll ask members to first consider the more procedural recommendations in turn. So we have the 5 recommendations, and we will go through each one of the recommendations in turn, and myself and Ingrid Gemmell, who's ward manager, is in attendance to answer any questions from members. And also the legal attends every common good in Dumfries and Galloway, and that is Julie Shannon from legal services, from our legal services. She's also here to answer any questions members may have about any of the legal aspects. Can I ask you first, members, to look at recommendation number 2.2 and consider the outcome of officer assessment of the request in relation to the Council's requirements to meet the best value as detailed at paragraph 4.5.3 and the officer recommendation at paragraph 4.9. So any questions for Ingrid on that part? Okay, we have a hand up.
Yeah, can I come in?
Yes, please do.
Yes, I'm sorry I haven't got the papers in front of me, as I didn't know the meeting was on this afternoon. But the Community Council has met, and it is the express wish of the Community Council that the tennis courts at Kirkcudbright be subject to a 25-year lease or longer, and that this be recorded on properly formed accounts of the Common Good Fund. This will have no deleterious effect upon the operation of the club whatsoever, which has been in existence for decades. Certainly I was a member of the club as a boy and as a young man or younger man, and the tennis club was never owned by the club, and it will have, in the opinion of all concerned, no effect upon the running of the club.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, Ingrid?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to say that the report that we have in front of us today, the request from the Community Tennis Club does remain for a full ownership. So that is the report that's in front of us, and that is what decisions will need to be taken on today by members. Thank you.
Could I interrupt again? I wasn't clear what you said there, Ingrid.
Thanks, Chair. Just to repeat that, so the application that we have received from Kirkcudbright Community Tennis Club is for a full asset transfer. So that is the decision, that is the application that members today will have to make a decision on. the application in front of us today is not for a 25-year lease.
Mr. Chairman, you are aware that Community Council intimated at the last meeting that was held its views, and that the Community Council's position on this 2 members was apparently not clear. The Community Council has since met, and trustees of this Common Good Fund were present. So I do not understand why the Dumfries and Galloway Council officials are still putting forward this one and only proposal when it is known that the wishes of the Community Council are not in favour of this transfer. The meeting should in some way reflect this by way of the documents that you have in front of me, and I simply don't understand why this has not been possible to so do. Thank you.
Thank you to the member, and I think we maybe do need a little bit of clarification. There seems to be a little confusion over whether they have the 25-year lease, but the club did say that they wanted to apply for full ownership. So Ingrid, if you'd like to respond.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. So through the Community Empowerment Act, communities and organisations, community transfer bodies are entitled to ask for whatever it is they would like in terms of community asset transfer. Kirkcudbright Community Tennis Club have requested that a community asset transfer application for full ownership is considered by members today. And I'll maybe bring in my colleague Jamie Ferguson just to add to that if he thinks that there's anything else that you could add that would be helpful to that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Through you, Chair. Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, the legislation, the regulations around community asset transfer expressly state that it is at the discretion of the community transfer body to request what they think would suit them best. Now, my understanding is that conversations with the tennis group around this have indicated that what they are looking for is the ownership. So I can understand the desire that the property remains in perpetuity for people in the community. Members could, if they choose, recommend that our legal put conditions on a transfer. That is a possibility. So I'll stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. So now, to move forward, I do ask the members regarding 2.5, if we can now agree the option and the recommendations, and whether we have any more questions from the members. Councillor Howie?
Yes, Chairman. Asset transfers are quite complex. We had a complex one in Castle Douglas where much the same concerns were raised. However, we do have a validated transfer applicant request in front of us, which we, as Ingrid says, we have to deal with today with one of the 3 options as outlined, the recommendations. And on that basis, and what Jamie was saying, I would be happy to go with recommendation 2 with sufficient conditions to give comfort to the Community Council that the tennis courts and stuff will remain for public community use. If that could be incorporated, Jamie. that correct? Can we go down that route?
Through you, Chair, we have Julie Shannon here today, and you know, if it's one that members could, I think our legal. I'm speaking for you, Julie. Sorry about that, but our legal is well used to setting such conditions, because clearly, like the Community Council, the objectives of the council in terms of community asset transfer is not around particular groups, it's to support the community and to get the community's aspirations, to help them to take their aspirations forward. Knowing that this group has put a lot into the development of the tennis club, the tennis court, and the building physically, I know that their interest, but things can change over time. So members could choose, and I'm not preempting what members decide, I hope, but members could choose to delegate to legal if the members set that as a broad condition that they would like the tennis club to remain in public, to the benefit of the public in perpetuity. They could simply delegate that to legal to find a wording to support that, if that helps, Chair.
Thank you, Jamie, for that suggestion. And legal, Julie, would you perhaps like to add? Sorry,
Thank
Julie.
you.
Yes, would you like to respond?
Yes, that's fine. Thanks, Chair. Yes, that's correct. On occasions in the past, when we have transferred properties and conditions are to be put on the transfer, then we would ask the transferee, or the purchaser, I suppose, in this case, the tennis courts, the tennis club, to grant a standard security in favour of the council. And a standard security it's basically akin to sort of a mortgage document. You know, if you buy your house and you get a loan from a building society or a bank, then you grant it's referred to as a sort of mortgage deed or a mortgage document, but it's actually a standard security, and it basically has various sort of conditions in it. Now attached, so the council in this case would kind of step in as the bank or the building society, but you know, in that sort of position, as in the conditions would be granted in the council's favour. And attached to the security, there would be a minute of agreement which would detail particular conditions that the council wanted to add to the sale, and it would be up to the council to decide what those conditions were to be, and we within legal services would provide appropriate wording within the minute of agreement and the standard security at time of sale.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that explanation. Councillor McFarlane, would you like to respond or add comment?
Yeah, I'd like to add comment, not respond. Thank you. Yes, I'd be interested to get the chair's views on this. Previously, when we had our meeting, I was unclear about what we could put conditions on, and I am sympathetic to the Community Council's view of this being an asset that they have. That if it transfers, I understand it cannot transfer back to the common good. So I am sympathetic to that. So I'd be interested in what conditions we could, how would we compensate Kirkcudbright Community Council if this was to be transferred? But I'm also interested in the chair's views. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for raising that, Councillor McFarlane. At the last meeting, there was clarification required, and unfortunately, we didn't have the time to clarify. In the last meeting, the question about what needs to happen with the tennis club. So I'm keen to hear from Ingrid her views on that, on what we found since then.
Thank you, Chair.
No? Oh. Okay, please, Ingrid.
Chairman, could I interrupt?
Would you allow Ingrid to respond, and more than happy to take your comment if you would bear with us, please. If you wouldn't mind, just allow Ingrid to make her comment. If you could switch your microphone off, please. Thank you. Thanks. Ingrid, please.
Yes, so we do have within the report a statement that refers to the information that we received from the Community Council. I'd also like to draw members' attention to the officer recommendation at 4.9, where there is the officer recommendation there was actually option 1. And I would also like to highlight for members that the social value that's measured on this application is actually £5.33 per pound of investment. So that's quite a significant return and investment in terms of what comes back into the local community. There has been a lot of work done by the local organisation that, in terms of the Community Tennis Club, they have invested or pulled in a lot of funding, managed to do a lot of work. They have been managing the facility for a long period of time. And it did come out in terms of the assessment as a strong application, where the recommendation in terms of that would be that we would recommend transfer with the potential for conditions. Hope that's helpful for members.
Thank you, Ingrid, for that clarification and explanation. Please, thank you for your patience. Keen to hear your comments.
It's a probably obscure point, but the world has the ability to throw up the unusual. I'm now speaking with authority on this as an expert on insolvency law in the United Kingdom. If this club was to have this asset transferred to it without no ability for the land and buildings to revert to the Common Good Fund, and the club became insolvent through over expenditure or lack of members to support the club, etc., a trustee in its insolvency would really have no other duty other than to sell the land and the buildings for the maximum benefit of creditors. And in that way, it would not return to the Common Good Fund if the club were in some way to become insolvent. And clubs do regularly become insolvent, football clubs in particular. So I draw that to the committee. There has to be, and again I speak with authority on this, very strong legal clauses inserted in any agreement with this proposed asset transfer, should you decide to actually do it, rather than acknowledge the wishes of the Community Council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for your concerns and the points that you've raised. They are noted, and we will follow up those concerns with legal, and we will seek further advice and hopefully enable the smooth process or transition. But I'd like to now move on to recommendation 2.4 and the note of any comments from the Kirkcudbright Community Council regarding 4.43 and any notes with regards to that. And I'd like to note that, if I may. Okay, well, I'd like to thank the members for their comments. I'd like to move on to recommendation 2.1, and we can now consider the CAT request laid out in stage 2 asset transfer application on Appendix 1 and the plan at Appendix 2. And I'd like to take any questions or comments on that, please. Okay, then we'll move on. Oh, please, Councillor McFarlane, you've raised your hand, please.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Sorry, is it 2.1 we're looking at, yes? The recommendations?
(2.1) the consideration of the CAT request laid out in stage 2 of the asset transfer application, Appendix 1, and the plan on Appendix 2. So that's what we are considering now.
Yes, thank you. I think we should go with the officer's recommendations and move to option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Councillor Howie.
Happy to second that proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Howie. Thank you for seconding that. So we'll move to 2.5, and we would like to agree an option for paragraph 4.10 to be recommended to the FPT committee. And if we're all in agreement there.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come in, please?
Councillor McFarlane.
Sorry, it's myself. It's Ingrid Gemmell who's looking to come in. Sorry.
Apologies. My apologies, Ingrid. I missed. I saw something else. My apologies. Please.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to check in terms of option 2 and recommendations. Just to be clear, and for the sake of the minute, are members suggesting that option 2 is agreed, and that within that there would be delegation to legal services to set conditions through standard security in favour of the council? Is that what members are wishing to be agreed today? Just checking.
That's correct from myself, Ingrid.
I'm sorry, Councillor. My apologies, Councillor. I didn't catch your name. I can't see who's speaking. Could you say your name?
Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Councillor Howie. My apologies. And Councillor McFarlane, you had your hand up. I want to make sure I took your...
Yes, I do, and it was to just confirm exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Julie, in legal, you had your hand up. Would you please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just with regard to the conditions, we will need clarity as to what exactly the conditions are, so that we can make sure that we instill them within the deeds to the letter of the law, as it were. That's just for clarity.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I think it's about retaining ownership within the council, so that if a situation arises whereby the transfer goes through and the tennis club decide that they would wish to relieve themselves of the asset, that it would return to the council's ownership. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. So we just need to make sure that we're doing the final checks and make all the recommendations that, or put in place all the recommendations with regards to 2.1, considering the community tennis, Kirkcudbright Community Tennis Club, and ensure that we're applying for and ensuring those conditions are met. And we need to ensure that with Appendix 2.2 or Appendix 2, apologies, and ensuring that the assessment transfer is meeting best value with regards to 4.5.3 and 4.9 and 2.3, and the outcomes and the making or meeting best value with regards to 4.62, and with 2.4 we need to note the comments from Kirkcudbright Community Council at paragraph 4.4.3 and agree an option from this listed paragraph 4.10 to be recommended to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee. So I just want to check, Ingrid, is there anything you'd like to add or clarify? Ingrid.
Yes, thanks again, Chair. Just to say, just in terms of the minute, are we saying that within that we wish to delegate to legal services to set the conditions through standard security in favour of the council, and in terms of retaining ownership within the council should the tennis club choose to relieve themselves of the facility or cease to exist?
Yes, for me, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid, for the clarification on those points. It appears that we are all in agreement. And Julie Shannon, please.
Yep, sorry, just to interject again. And just for my own purposes, being the legal person here, that transfer of ownership back to the council would be at nil cost, I presume, on the basis that it's nil cost that it's transferring presently. I just need to be clear about that.
I can see a comment wanting to be made by a member, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Is it possible for the Community Council to be made aware of the terms and conditions that are going to adhere to this proposed transfer, noting also that you appear to be ignoring what the Community Council actually wishes, which is it to be subject to a lease. But if that is not to be the case, then I would hope that the Community Council will be given a chance to have a look at the terms and conditions being considered by the lawyers of the council or whoever before it is finally signed off and finished by an irretrievable position. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. I can. I'm not in a position to comment whether or not the council have a duty to share that documentation with any third parties, albeit interested third parties, prior to settlements. I can say that in due course, these deeds will be going on to, well, the disposition in favour of the tennis club, the standard security and the minute of agreement will be recorded in the Land Register for Scotland and therefore will become a matter of public record, and anyone would be able to access those details at that point. But in terms of the question that Mr. Forbes is asking, I'm not in a position to provide comment on that. I don't know if anyone else in the room at this point can. It may be an issue for governance or some other party.
Thank you for that explanation. I can see that you'd like to respond to that, and please do.
I regret I don't accept your contention. By the time it is recorded with Registers of Scotland, it will be a fait accompli. This is common good land, a common good asset, not a council asset per se. And the Community Council and the people of Kirkcudbright have, I think, got a right to know what is being proposed with their asset before it is signed, sealed and dusted in an irrevocable position. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and thank you for your points. James Ferguson, did you have a point you'd like to raise? If you do,
maybe just to clarify, Chair, that in the report, or the appendix to the report, that is the business plan from the tennis club. As with any community asset transfer, the council's procedure is threefold. Firstly, it asks the applicant to consult with the local community. And the tennis club has a number of consultees listed in the report that it has gone out to and has discussed the benefits of their proposition, their proposal for transfer. So I can understand that the Community Council has a position on this. There are a number of groups within Kirkcudbright that have given their validation to this, you might say. The second part of any community asset transfer is asking the group to point out the additionality, what they will bring to the community through this community asset transfer. We run that through a thing called the Social Value Engine, which is a UK recognised tool to measure social value. And as Ingrid was saying earlier, this has come out as a particularly high value contribution to the local community. The third part we ask for is a formal business plan to show how this proposition is going to wash its face in the long term, which should give a bit of reassurance that this isn't it isn't a fly-by-night proposition. It is one that has a good chance of sustaining as a business proposal. So where the point I suppose I'm making is that were we to go back to the community, sure, there's the Community Council, but there's a number of other stakeholders invested in this proposition too. So I just say that as a point of clarification, Chair, hopefully helpful.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for the points that you've raised, and thank you for the clarification and the way in which we have communicated with other interested parties, and how we've consulted and included and ensured that the proposal that we're looking to recommend has been checked through. But thank you. What I'd like to do now is move on to item number 4, please. This is applications for financial assistance from Kirkcudbright Common Good Fund, and it's a report by the Head of Community Services. So I'd like us to consider and look at the applications for financial assistance from Kirkcudbright's Chamber of Commerce and First Stewardship Rangers with regards to the installation of Christmas motifs and lights to the value of £8,276.98, and this is to promote a successful Christmas trading season, and also for the First Stewardship Rangers to have who have requested £1,000 towards the purchase of tents and camping equipment, which will be usable throughout the year. So Ward Manager Ingrid Gemmell is here to answer any questions regarding that.
So if we would like to move forward to recommendations, we have 2.1 to note that the remaining forecasted free income balance of £13,723 is available for disbursement in 2023 to 2024 financial year. 2.2 notes the agreed grant criteria, and that is for funding as detailed in Appendix 1. And 2.3 to consider and agree awards to the applicants as detailed in paragraph 4.12 and Appendix 2. So I see that Councillor McFarlane has their hand up, and please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The previous meeting was postponed or sort of deferred to today in order to address the issue that we've just discussed, and we had to take into account the views of Kirkcudbright Community Council. I believe that we should do so again. The fact that on the previous occasion we didn't agree with them doesn't mean that we shouldn't agree with them on this occasion. And I believe that the Community Council are not supportive of these applications because they've not had sight of them because of the lateness of the applications. The Chamber of Commerce did a similar thing last year, whereby they sought similar amounts of money for similar purposes. And at that time, we didn't approve it because, again, they had been a little bit tardy in getting this forward. They've had 12 months to get this right, and they've chosen not to go through the due process again. I'm reluctant, but I do think that they need to get their house in order. Then that we shouldn't approve it on the basis that they have to go through due consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. And I think that is a very valuable point. And I think, as you said, this is something that they've done a couple of times now. They've had plenty of time. They know the deadline. As you said, they've had 12 months and they've had opportunities. But we need to give other organisations opportunities for applications as well. And I see Councillor Howie, would you like to contribute?
Thanks, you're very much the same as Councillor McFarlane here. £9,000, well, £9,276. It is a lot to give away without consulting the Community Council in the meantime, and I think we owe it to them to have the opportunity to comment on a sum of that size being distributed without them having sight of it. So I support Councillor McFarlane on that issue.
Thank you. And member comments?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors, for your comments, which are in accordance with what was discussed at Community Council. It should be noted that no accounts were attached to the Chamber of Commerce application. We have not seen what happened to the money that was awarded I think 2 or 3 years ago to the Chamber of Trade for purchasing something to do with Christmas illuminations or things in Kirkcudbright. And we're not certain as to whether or not this application is for this year or next year or what, but the application was put in front of us such that we didn't have a chance to really come to any view. To a certain extent, the same applies with the other application as well. So I'm grateful to the trustees or councillors for noting the council's views on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you raising that. And I think we as councillors do agree. Councillor McFarlane again.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, you know, the fact that we're not supportive doesn't mean that we're not supportive of the applications themselves. It's just that on this occasion, the timeliness and, as Lindsay's already indicated, the lack of financial evidence supporting the application I don't feel it's there to support it on this occasion. However, should they return in a timely manner, having carried out due consultation and provide sufficient evidence, that we would perhaps consider it a more favourable light next time.
Yes, and I think we are in agreement to leave it now and defer that one and give them the time to perhaps get the affairs in order for that one. So I think we're agreed there'll be no award for the two that they've claimed. They have made missed the deadline, and that is noted. Thank you. So now we will move forward to recommendations 2.1, and that's to note the, oh, sorry, I think I've already covered that one. Sorry, apologies. So for the recommendations 2.1, to note the remaining forecasted free income balance of for 23 to 24 of the 13,723 for the financial year. 2.2, to note the agreed grant criteria for funding as detailed in Appendix 1, and also for 2.3, to consider and agree awards to the applicants as detailed in paragraph 4.12 and Appendix 2. Oh, Ingrid, would you like to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in terms of 2.3, just for the sake of the minute, is that noted that you've consider and agree no awards be made to the two applicants?
Thank you, Ingrid, for clarifying that. So no awards today. So we shall move on to number 6, any other business that is deemed urgent by the chairman due to the need for decision. I have no urgent business, so that concludes the meeting. Could I thank you all for your contributions? Thank you so much.